Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, thanks so much again for having me and letting me be a part of your forum and Sunday morning service. Uh, I've been here before and I've spoken on different topics. You all know I do spoken word poetry and I'm a storyteller. I thought today what I do is tell a little bit about my process in storytelling and even self-publishing. I just published a new book. I'm going to send it around, called Green. Have you ever heard the poem Green?
Yes.
You've heard this one, okay. And I finally did it with the artwork. I'm going to send a few around. And so,
You wrote this?
I wrote this and I did the artwork with it. And
It's not easy to use.
and you can send it on back around. And it's something that just won't leave me alone. You say, well, what do you mean leave you alone? I love to tell the stories. I love to write the poems. I love to come up with the words. But to do the art as well seems like too much to do it all. Because I can start drawing at 7 o'clock at night and just look up and it's 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm still drawing. So someone will say, well, that's a passion, right? Yeah, but I don't know if I can keep putting so much time into the drawing when the real deal is to get the story out. So this is something I've been juggling with for a long time. The story, I want to tell you a story that I created in college as an assignment. And then I want to break down how I got started with self-publishing. Does that sound okay?
Sure.
At any time, if you have a question, just stop me, raise your hand. I'd love to answer any question. I just want to share with you my process and how I do this part of what I do. And so I had an assignment in my theater puppetry class, and it was due the next day. I had other assignments that I had to do, and I put them first because I knew, well, this one will be probably the easier one because I'm gifted with coming up with the stories. But it was the next day, and I said, whoa, I don't even know if I can do this as fast as I thought I could. So here's what I did. I went upstairs into the library on the second floor, I'll never forget, and I sat on the floor with my back against a post for about 10 or 15 minutes, and this whole story just unfolded for me. The beginning, the end, I could see it. And I used to ask other people, how do your stories come? And when I tell them what I do, I said, you don't do that? You don't see it like that? And someone said, no, Leslie, that's a gift. That's a gift to be able to see a story the way that you see it. The next day I go in and I share this story and I act it out, and I have other students, because you had to have a story as something that you could use props and have them act it out and teach children. When I was done, the teacher was blown away. The class was blown away. I got an A on the project. She said, you must have worked on this thing for... I said, well, I put some time into it. And it's been a blessing. It can also be a curse too, because when you can do it so quickly, you put it off to the last minute. Make sense? But what it showed me, that was when I really got it. I knew that I was a storyteller. I knew that I came from a family of storytellers. But that day, that time, said, you know what? You've really got something here, and you need to really nurture it. Really look into it, and really use it, because it can be used as a gift to help other people. I want to make sure we get a couple to the back too. Let me.
I want to buy one.
Oh, you want to buy? Oh, praise the Lord! I want you to buy
Thank
too.
you.
So I can keep on, and they're for sale today too. So I just
How
want
much
to
are
make.
they?
I'm selling them for 15 today. So and so this story, can I share the story that I came up with?
Sure.
And now here's the thing, I tell it all the time, and at Holy Family I have to tell it, at Holy Family School, I have to tell this story at least once a year. The kids look for it, and as soon as they know I'm telling, even though they know the ending and they know how, they still want to hear it. There's something about stories that are like that. And I say, today I'm going to tell you about Mr. Dog. Oh, Mr. Dog, he's going to tell the story. And they get all excited. And so here's how the story goes. And let me say this. It's not written down in any particular way, and every time I tell the story, it's just a little bit different how I start, a little bit different how I put emphasis in this particular area. Are y'all with me when I explain that? I haven't put it like Green is a poem, and it's said a certain way because it has a rhyme and a cadence, and it ends at the end. But Mr. Dog is still free flowing. I've yet to make it, here's what it is. It's just organic. And so there was a little girl. Her name was Sue Lynn. All her friends called her Sue. Everybody say Sue.
Sue.
Yeah, Sue. She was gifted and she was confident, and there was nothing she couldn't do. But she was blind. She couldn't see. But it didn't stop her from doing all the things that all the other kids were doing. If the other kids were climbing trees, guess what? Sue was climbing the tree. When the kids wanted to climb up things and jump over, now understand she can't see, and they would jump into like a pile of leaves, Sue would do it too. She said, hey, I'm Sue. And if you can do it, I can do it too. When the boys would want to wrestle and be rough, the other girls would just kind of, oh, those boys, here they go. Sue was like, let's go. And even though she couldn't see, if she get a hold of you, oh, that's it. She put you in the chicken wing and she break you down and they'd say, mercy! Because Sue was that kind of girl. Very confident, very strong. She knew who she was and felt like there was nothing that she couldn't accomplish. She lived in a cottage by the woods, and near her house was a sweet smell of cinnamon. Everybody said, cinnamon. Can you close your eyes for a minute? Just say, cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
Yeah.
Bacon.
What's that? Yeah. And this is what filled the air around her home. She did have one thing that she would do though. At night, sometimes when she was asleep, she would get up out of her bed and she would sleepwalk. I never knew anybody personally who ever slept. Have you ever known anybody who would sleepwalk? You did? Yeah. So your daughter would sleepwalk. I know of it, but Sue, this is what she would do. She would get up in the middle of the night and she would just start to walk. And sometimes she'd go outside of the cabin, outside of the cottage, and she'd go a ways, and then she'd finally come to herself and realize, I've been doing it again. She said, but no problem, I can find my way back home because I'm who?
Sue.
I'm Sue Lynn. And she spelled it not S-U-E, but S-U. Everybody say S-U. Say that's Sue.
Oriental.
You got to help me out. You got. So help me out. Say S-U.
S-U.
That's Sue.
That's Sue.
You see, you can rap. You didn't even know you can rap. Okay. And so she said, I'm Sue. No problem. No big deal. I'll find my way. And so she started to feel around, and then she take a sip. Okay. I can smell the cinnamon. So home is right in this direction. She'd go in that direction, and sure enough, she found her way home. Here's the story. One night, while in her bed, it happens again. She gets up and she begins to walk. She goes outside of her home and off into the woods. When she finally wakes up, she realizes she's not in her bed. She did it again. She says, no problem, because I'm Sue. I can do this. I can find my way home. She began to try to see if she could smell cinnamon, but she couldn't. She said, whoa, I must be pretty far from home. But that's okay, I can figure this out. So she began to feel the trees, and feeling on one side, there's moss over here, and maybe that's where the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, and if that's the case, and she's just putting it all together. And then she starts on her way. She starts to walk to find her way back to the cottage, sniffing and feeling, and then she heard a sound. It went like this. What's that? It got closer. And then it got closer. And this dog jumped on her, knocked her to the ground, started licking her face. And she's like, whoa, wait a minute, wait. He's just licking on the other side, and she's just trying to crawl. And then she starts laughing, and the dog is kind of laughing too. And so, I don't know if they laugh like that, but you know what I mean. And she's having a good time with this dog, and she says, wait a minute. I would love to play with you, but... And you're such a sweet dog. Do you have a name? Can I, Mr. Dog? Can I call you Mr. Dog? And the dog said, yeah. No, it really did. It did. And so she said, well, Mr. Dog, I've got to find my way home. And so I'd love to play with you, and you're so sweet. And so she began to go on her way, and the dog grabbed her sleeve with his mouth and began to pull her as if to say, follow me. She said, oh, Mr. Dog, you're trying to lead me, and oh, you're so sweet, and I appreciate that, but listen, I'm Sue. I've done this before, and trust me, I know what I'm doing, but it's nice meeting you. Mr. Dog was sad, but he let her go. So Sue began to walk, feeling and smelling and trying to find her way home, and then she heard another sound. It went like this. She said, Mr. Dog, is that you? And so she didn't think that was Mr. Dog, so she kind of eased away from that sound, and then she heard another sound just like that one, over in this direction. So she said, I think maybe I need to back a little bit, and then she heard another sound, same type of sound behind her. She was surrounded by 3 wolves, and they were hungry, and she looked delicious. She took one more step, her foot snapped a twig, and the first wolf jumped on her, grabbed her hair, and snatched her to the ground. She was Sue, though. She said, I'm not going out with a fight. And she was fighting that wolf and trying to get him off, but the next one grabbed her ankle, and she started to try to kick, and he was biting into her leg and pierced her skin, and there was blood, and she was fighting, and she fought him off, but the other one came and grabbed her arm, and he pulled, and she was trying to get this one up. She said, help, somebody help, and all of a sudden, Mr. Dog. He came running with his tongue hanging out, kind of like Michael Jordan. And he took the first dog, the first wolf, and shook him, and he ran over, and then took the next one and shook him, and then the third one said, oh man, he's too tough, I'm leaving, and he left. And Mr. Dog saved the day. He went back to Sue and began to lick her wounds and comfort her. She said, oh my goodness, I didn't even know they had wolves out here like that. Mr. Dog, you saved my life. Yeah. She says, I gotta get home. He grabs her sleeve and begins to pull her in a direction as if to say, follow me. She said, oh, Mr. Dog, you're such a sweet dog, and you did save me. But if my calculations are correct, I think I need to be going this way and not the way you're pulling me, so I'm gonna have to go my own way. He was sad, but he let her go. Sue began to walk, and she came to an area that was kind of rocky. The ground was rocky. She was kind of walking on, small rocks, and then some of those rocks got bigger, and then she felt on one side there was like a rocky, what is this? Is this a side of a cave or cliff or cup? She's trying to feel this thing, and then she felt on this side, and it was rocky. She was going in between like this little crag, and she said, I know this is the way to go, but I've never seen this before. So she's like kind of walking in between this area, kind of a gap on the way to what she think is home. And what she doesn't realize is she's in between 2 tall rocks close together. Her hand hits a rock that's holding up a bigger rock. And that rock is holding up a bigger rock. And that rock is holding what? A bigger rock. And that's holding a huge boulder. When she hit the one, it started a chain reaction, and it fell down and almost crushed her right in front of her. Boom, shook the ground, and she's like, whoa, she felt the wind when it hit, and she was like, oh my goodness, I almost got smashed. But when it hit, it started to shake things up, and other rocks started to fall. And so she tried to get away. She tried to get around this one, and one hit her in the head, and one hit her in the shoulder. She fell. She got up, and rocks were falling. She tried to go back this way, and rocks were hitting her on this end, and she was trying to get away. She said, help, help, somebody help. And all of a sudden, Mr. Dog. Mr. Dog came. He was dodging rocks to the left and dodging them to the right. He grabbed Sue and snatched her to safety. She said, Mr. Dog, you saved me twice. Yeah. She said, it's dangerous out here. I really need to get home. He grabs her sleeve and pulls her in a direction as if to say, follow me. She says, Mr. Dog, you're a sweet dog and you helped me twice, I know, but I think this is the way to go. Mr. Dog was sad, but he did what?
Let her go.
He let her go. And then it happened. She was on the top of a cliff and didn't even realize it. She was walking towards the edge. It was a long fall all the way down into raging waters with sharp rocks and everything. It's just, I don't know how you survive something like that. And there she was walking towards the edge. Her left foot was right at the edge of the cliff, but not far enough where she would know, where her toes would let her know that she'd gone too far, and her right foot went over the edge. And before she realized that there was no ground there, try to pull herself off, it was too late. She had overextended herself, and she fell all the way down into that water. Smack down. She tried to come up and knock the wind from her. She tried to catch her breath, and the water pulled her down again and slapped her against the rocks that were inside of the water. She came up once. She tried to help somebody, and the water pulled her down. She came up twice, and she was trying to say help, help, and it pulled her. And she came up a third time, and she was saying, but she had no breath, and the water brought her down under that third time. Now, when I tell this story, I tell kids all the time, I love happy endings, but every story doesn't necessarily have a happy ending. Because Sue, she went down that third time. And all of a sudden, Mr. Dog! Mr. Dog! He jumped off the cliff! Down into the water. Boom. He started the doggy paddle, because that's what dogs do. Like that. And he grabbed Sue and pulled her to safety. He saved her not once, not twice, but how many? Three times. Mr. Dog grabbed her sleeve and began to pull her as if to say, Father. She said, listen, wherever you want to take me, let's go. Because I know the way that I'm going is not working, and I'm going to trust you now. And Mr. Dog was like, yeah. That's good. So Mr. Dog began to lead her and walk with her. Now, she's feeling a little cool, so the sun's going down. And she's like, we're still walking, and I'm not home yet. And she said, he's a nice dog, but I don't think he's going the right way. But at least he's keeping me safe, so I don't want to be away from him, so I'll just let him lead me. Mr. Dog is pulling her sleeve and leading her, and she's hanging in there with him. But now she's getting scared, and she's really cold, and she's still not home. And Mr. Dog is just pulling her along, and then she starts to cry, and then she realizes this is just horrible. She just snatches her sleeve. Mr. Dog, you don't know what you're doing. I know you helped me, but this is not the way to go home. I'm cold and I'm scared, and you just keep taking me this way, and something telling me I need to go that way. And she starts to cry and wipe her face. Hey, wait a minute. Mr. Dog, I'm all right. He said, yeah. She said, all this time I thought you were leading me away, but you were actually leading me home. She was just a few feet away from her door. From that day forward, no matter where she went or what she did, she took Mr. Dog with her. She was confident and she was strong, but she knew no matter how much she knew, Mr. Dog's support and leadership and friendship was something that she never wanted to be apart from. And so at the end of the story, I always ask the group that I'm telling, especially the kids, I say, what's her name again?
Sue.
How do you spell it?
S-U.
What's that backwards?
Us.
That's us. What's dog backwards?
God.
That's God. And so the story is about God leading us home. And often God says, follow me. We say, yeah, Lord, I hear you, but. And he's sad, but he'll let us go. He said, if you, I want you to follow my way, but you have free will. And we get into a mess and he comes through again. He says, trust me, follow me, and we do it again. You know where I'm going with the story. It's about us. Finally getting it and saying, you know what? I am Sue, and I'm supposed to be strong, and that's a good thing. But never to the point where I'm separate from the one who loves me, protects me, and leads me, and guides me. Amen?
Amen.
Amen. And so that's Mr. Dog. Now, believe it or not, that came to me in 10 minutes before my assignment. I just sat there on the library, knowing I needed to come up with something that I could act out. Like I had ties, neckties tied around a pole, a couple of poles, and I had a little swivel chair. And somebody was, when she was in the water, they had to like push the swivel chair, and somebody's like this going through the ties, like they're going through the water with the eyes closed, and and just the part with the avalanche, and people had balled up piece of paper on both sides, and kind of, so we had to act this whole thing out. And but what I realized for myself, I knew that I loved to tell stories. I remember being in 6th grade making little bitty paper books. What time is it? Am I okay for time? Because I'm on a roll now. I'll talk you to death. And so I would make these little books of stories, like Hermes, the messenger god who was very fast versus the speed of light, And I make these books, and my classmates wanted to know who was going to win. And then, of course, King Kong versus Godzilla. And I draw these with my little red pen and blue pen. And ninjas were real big back then. I had all these little ninja stories. And just doing what I love to do, tell stories, and I love to draw. And I was just passing these things around and didn't know that one day God would use all of that to tell his story through those stories. And I can't express to you how much fun I'm having doing what I love to do for the kingdom. I don't know if you can tell. Can you tell I enjoy and I tell the story pretty much the same, but it's always a little something else in there. And I love to see how it's going to come out too. And but that's one of the things that you give me. But the thing about the art that I want to spend just a little bit of time on is, I love to draw, but I love to tell the story. And I say, Lord, how can I do both in my lifetime? Because I'm not going to be a Picasso. We know that. That's not that's the thing I like to do, and it's okay. I'll do some art, but telling the actual story and coming up with the idea is the gift, if you will. So how do I do this? And so I try to leave the art alone, and it's like breaking up with a girlfriend, I gotta keep calling her, even though I know it's over. And I said, "What you doing?" And so, but it just won't leave. Here's another thing that I came up with. This is something that I won't publish. Probably it's just something for fun. Every night, I have 2 boys, Evan and Jacob, and when they were real small, Evan would say, "Daddy, tell me a story before I go to bed." And so I came up with this idea of the chewing book and the dancing cookie. The chewing book and the dancing cookie. And every night, for I forgot how long it was, he'd say, "Daddy, what's going to happen today?" And I said, "Well, here's what happened. So this time, remember the dancing cookie was hanging from the cupboard?" Mm-hmm. And then we go into this whole thing, and then we finish. Okay, you got to go to bed. And then the next day, "Daddy, what happens with the okay, so here's what happened." And so I said, I was just drawing, I'll pass that around. And it's nothing that I'm ever going to want to publish or anything like that, but it's just, I did this as something that I'd always have and give to my kids, and they can pass it. Is the relationship that we have with storytelling. And I put a little thing at the beginning that says, this is to honor the relationship of storytelling that I have with my children. And so, and I couldn't help it. I had to draw it. Have you ever had something like what I'm talking about, where you have a gift or a talent or an inkling to do something, and you wonder, how am I going to do it, or do I have the time, or do I have the money, or you ever felt like that at all? Yeah, I see some nods. For the longest time, I was doing chapels and telling stories, and someone said, you ought to write that stuff down. Well, you ought to people want to hear, because I would buy that. And I said, okay, well, let me try to do that. And I took Mr. Dog and another story called The Big Block of Ice. I don't have time to tell you that one. That's another signature story, The Big Block of Ice and Mr. Dog. And I sent them out to try to see if anybody would be interested. And, people would look, oh, it's pretty nice, but not quite what we're looking for, And then one day after chapel at Holy Family School, the guy who was taking our pictures for the newsletter, he says, have you ever thought about self-publishing? And I said, no, not really. He says, why don't you self-publish? And I thought about it. I said, why don't I? He said, you already have your audience. You go around and you speak, right? I said, yeah. Well, every time you go and you speak, just bring your stuff with you. I said, that's true. I said, okay, let me look into self. I didn't know anything about self-publishing. I didn't know anything about sending my stuff to a person and then hoping that they don't steal my ideas. And this is all new to me. I said, I don't know. But when he said it, something inside of me said, yeah, let me try that. So my first book, which is the book of poems called Poetic Remedies of Healing, I gave it a shot. I put together a bunch of poems. I put together a bunch of stories. Let you check that out, then I'll put it over here. And I just and I said, well, I didn't even have a computer to type on at the time. But it's just so funny. It's so funny when the doors open, God opens more doors, right? If you'll go forward. That Christmas, my wife got me a computer. She didn't even know I was gonna try. She said, oh yeah, and we gave each other gifts. But not, like computer gifts, you know what I mean? We gave him, little, cute little gift here, cute little gift there. And then ta-da, I said, what made you get a computer? I don't know, I just thought. And so I said, okay, well, I don't have an excuse. I got something to write it on. And then I started to write. And then I was like, well, I'm not going to have the money to publish it because, I made a little bit of money, but not enough money because it's going to be a couple $1,000 to get it started up and everything. Every speaking engagement I had from the time I decided to do it until it was time to write the last check, every speaking engagement paid for the setup and the first set of copies. I was like, wow. And I just kept seeing God, come through. I had a big thing down at the Palmer House the week that they came, and when they came, I took them and I set up the table with Poetic Remedies and did my poems, and they sold out. As I was getting on the elevator, I had about 130 books with me. As I was getting on the elevator, I had one book in my hand, and they said, hey, are you leaving? I said, yeah. They said, do you have any more books? I said, I've got one more book. They sold every book at that event in 2 days, and so I made all my money back, plus I was like 500 or something on the plus, and I still had another 165 books to sell. I said, this is gonna work. But what it really did for me was said that this is not a fluke. This is not something, I gave this to you. I can hear God saying to me, I gave this to you and I gave it to you for a reason, and I want you to use it, and I'll be with you and I'll provide what you need, because I'll never give you the vision without the provision. Are you with me? I'll never give you the vision without the provision. All I need you to do is stay excited, keep loving what you're doing, and go forward. Just go forward, and I'll take care of the rest. And so, some years later, I'm still doing it. I say, okay, I did pencil. Y'all know pencil and pen, right?
Yeah.
I did pencil and pen. I thought pencil and pen was going to be the thing that kind of scratched the itch of the art. And I said, okay, I'm good. I did pencil and pen. I did one with art. Now let's just write. And then green comes along, and I just can't stop. So I think what I'm going to do now is not say what it's going to be and how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to leave it open and let the Spirit lead. Because just like Sue, I find myself wanting to control the situation and no, here's what it needs to be. And sometimes even I need to just really you know what, God, where are you taking me? I don't think I have enough time to draw in right, but you gave me this too. So whatever it means, I'm trusting that you're going to show me that it's all going to come together. And somehow, quietly in my spirit, I can hear, yeah. Someone told me, they said, Leslie, we like to read it, we like to see it, but it's not like hearing you. And so I said, okay. Each project really came out of people saying, how about this? Did you think about that? We'd love to. Did I put one over here? I'll put one here, then we can come up. So I got together some people who knew about music and who could help put some background to the poems and the stories and the rhymes. And so this project Overflow came about as a result of that. People wanted to hear me do it. And so the next project eventually will be, well, we want to see you do it. So hopefully, who knows, in the future we'll do something with a video type of deal. I'm just in it, you know, I'm in it for the ride. I want to see where God's going to take it. I'm excited, and I feel very grateful and thankful, and just want God to get everything, whatever He's put in me. I just want Him to get it all before I'm done. Bring me out and use me to the max. Any questions? I mean, feel like I'm just kind of. Did y'all like Mr. Dog? Was that okay? Yeah. The kids, anytime I say, okay, today we're gonna talk about Mr. Dog, they go crazy on that thing. And even though they know that they still, you can hear a pin drop. You know, so there's something to be said for that.
So the stories and poems on your CDs are appropriate for school-age kids?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Do you have a pen with you? Pen? I gotta go get some money from my husband.
Okay.
Not like.
Do the children want to hear the same story each time? Or
Yeah, oh yes, they do.
You change it around a little bit?
A little bit, but not trying to. It just happened.
They like that story.
Yeah, they like sometimes I may start with the wrestling the boys first, and then I'll come into, and she arm wrestles, you know, she's doing something, you know, and whatever I hear at that time that she's doing. But I know the basic format of the story, but in and through it, you know, a little piece may come in here, a little piece may come in there. And the CD, and you asked the question about the CD, it's spoken word. Some of it's talking about forgiveness and coming through alcoholism in the family. I don't know if that's too big of a topic. So I'd say listen to it first. I mean, really it does have some themes in there, but it's appropriate language, appropriate everything, but it's strong in some area. Then you have green in there, and it's lighthearted, it's fun. It's a little bit of mixture of both. So I would say just maybe listen to it and see if it's something you want to share with who you have in mind.
You're gonna have the books after church.
I plan to I'll leave it here.
Okay.
Just come see me.
You said you came from a family of storytellers?
A family of storytellers. My grandmother it's funny, on both sides really, but my grandmother on my father's side is, she'll have you riveted. She tells stories from the South, you know, and she's got stories about, and she tells it, there's a dog, she comes from Arkansas, Newport, Arkansas, and she said, yeah, they tell us about a dog. He would just walk through the town, and you'd have a conversation with someone, and he'd say something at the end, say, that's a fact. And they say, that dog didn't say that, I know, but he would say that. It's just, you know he's a talk.